Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back today, and we're going to be talking about some good old floor surgeon and how all the stuff is being quit, and hopefully we can get this going. I'm really hoping in the next 5 or so years that a lot of this will be ended. Of course, this will have to be taking a different approach to having maybe I would say a more centrist or maybe, God forbid, a Republican in a place, so that way we can make sure that it does happen in the next 5 years rather than deep imploding and ending us. So let's get straight into the article here. Florida Surgeon General calls for end to transgender treatments for minors. Leto criticized the practice as a political ideology rather than an evidence-based treatment. And I'll talk a bit more about it, but I would highly recommend you guys go and watch What is a Woman by Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire, because that is very eye-opening, and he is not wrong. From what I have seen in that Pacific video is, or that documentary in Pacific, really shows what the evil of the people are actually hiding. There's a reason why the left are pushing so far back against it and doing stuff, because they realize the evil that they're doing. So I may get on a bit of rant here, like sometimes I do, because I'm pretty passionate about some of this stuff, but it's not. I don't believe this stuff is okay. In a letter sent to the Florida Board of Medicine on June 2nd, State Surgeon General Joseph Lombardo criticized the Sunshine State's policy of administering gender-affirming care to minors seeking treatment for gender dysphoria and asked them to review and implement recommendations he made earlier this year. Lombardo took particular interest in the treatments offered to children and adolescents and reminded the board that he recommended against certain pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical and surgical treatments for gender dysphoria in the guidance released by the Florida Department of Health on April 20th. The Department of Health recommended halting the following treatments for children and adolescents: social gender transition, the non-surgical name, pronoun and clothing changes, puberty blockers or hormone therapy, gender reassignment surgery. Instead, the treatment guidance says children and adolescents should receive counseling from a licensed provider and, upon reaching adulthood, make decisions about these treatments that pose unacceptably high risk of doing harm to minors. He noted that despite dissenting opinions from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Doctoring Society, the Agency for Healthcare Administration's review of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones found that evidence supporting these complex medical interventions is extraordinarily weak. Florida Surgeon General accused these professional organizations of following a political ideology rather than evidence-based treatment, noting that a number of foreign countries are startled by the recent growth in trans-curious children and have issued similar guidance. Countries such as Sweden, Finland, France, and the United Kingdom are currently reviewing, reevaluating, and stopping or advising caution on the treatment of gender dysphoria in children and adolescents. In a policy report commissioned by the Swedish government, scientists cautioned that much of the research on gender-affirming treatments were conducted in only the past few years, and that their team was unable to find any scientific studies which explain the increase in incidence in children and adolescents who have sought transition. Similarly, Finland concluded that people experiencing the lack of clarity related to their gender identity should first be provided with psychosocial support, while warning that little research has been conducted on the long-term effects of those who undergo body-altering procedures, and such treatments might disadvantage them or utter them with regret. I would agree. One of the I forgot one of the people said from the documentary, but there was a person that was transgender that they transitioned from woman to male, and he says biologically I am a female, and that is she says that biologically I am a female, and there's no getting around that, and he is active. She is actively showing that that the consequences and the serious issues of transgender surgery. I know there was a person on the YouTube before that I was discussing with that specifically was advocate that none of those hormones or whatever are dangerous to kids or whatever, and they're absolutely wrong. There is a drug, I may believe that's called libido, that I could be wrong, but it definitely begins with an L, but it was libido, and that sex hormone sterilizes people. It's what it's what it does to it's what people it's what we use on sex offenders that we need to sterilize. So again, it does sterilize them. There are kids getting. There was a kid that was 14 that got a very old woman disease. I forgot what it was called. It was a very large one. And this is all in the documentary, by the way. Besides even the video one. So no, they're wrong. It's not safe to be giving these things to children at all. Period. And I don't believe that we should be indulging in this fantasy. I may believe Finland and those other countries that have stopped this are in the correct path. And it's only here in America and then, of course, Canada, where they want to deem this as okay. And it is not. And what I've come to realize is that the trans community, and particularly the trans activists, are exceptionally very, very evil people. They do not care for people. They do not care for children, and they are mostly going after children so they can conduct experiments. Which, if you watch What is a Woman documentary, you will understand exactly what I mean by that. I'll go on with this article. An interim report submitted to the United Kingdom's National Health Service, the research team warned that the rapid increase in the number of children who require support for gender-related issues will require the once marginal Gender Identity Development Service office to expand, implying that ideological motives may be impacting research. The report notes that there is a lack of opinion discussion about the nature of gender dysphoria. Like Finland and Sweden, the review team found that there simply wasn't enough evidence or research advice to advise doctors on whether to administer hormone treatments. While the other three reports cited by Labato failed to reach a conclusion regarding which is causing the recent increase in gender questioning children, France issued a preliminary determination and recommended that parents remain vigilant towards their children's questions in transidentity. Social networks, according to the report, create an addictive character of excessive consultation that harms the child's psychological development and play a significant role in the growing sense of gender incongruence. Which I may believe we're in a battle for. We're in a battle for. I think the U.S. will wake up, especially due to this documentary that is showing that's going to cause severe harm to children. Again, people are going to say that I'm against trans people, and after this documentary, it's hard for me to say whether I am or not. What I mean by this is specifically is that I don't know whether the trans activists are actively going for trans activism during this time is really in the helpful for children, because and also for themselves, because I put it in this perspective. The procedures that have been happening in these places are inhumane and entirely experimental. It's so damaging that it's ruining people's lives, and they don't realize this in the first couple of years, but it's the 10 years that they start realizing where there's actually some kind of damage. So when you have these activists that are saying specifically that it transitioned now, they're not realizing it. So it's not really right now that's happening that they'll be thinking of it, but in 10 years, whatever they got that procedure, 10 years from that procedure, they'll start realizing something different. So I would say next 5 years, because a lot of people that would have transitioned as of recent would start realizing the issues that they would be having, which comes to the conclusion to where, why is this done on kids? Why is this only being forced on kids? And why is there so much of these books into here? Because, again, what the specific of the documentary says that they per procedure is like $60,000 to $70,000, which is a lot of money, and a lot of people can't really pay that. And the fact that we're trying to do this to children is absolutely sickening. Now, I would say that the first half or the first 40 to 50 minutes of the documentary, it's more of like a build-up, right? So the build-up will be the first 40 to 50 minutes, and then the last of it is probably the most gut-wrenching and dark type of stuff that you would have to see. But again, I highly recommend seeing it. Just because it's dark does not mean it doesn't face reality. And this is the reality that we're living in. We have these very, very sick people that want to push this demented stuff onto children, and by God, it's sick. If it's for like specifically adults or whatever, I mean, you're an adult. You have the right to consent. You can do whatever you want, right? But the fact that we're going to do this to children, no, I don't agree with that. This is a huge problem that I have with a dark side behind stuff. I think this documentary will really help open people's eyes, and the only people that are going to hate this are the people that Matt Walsh was talking in the documentary, and the people that would actively want to harm children, because I don't believe that either of them are helping children, and they actively just want to make some kind of money, and they wanted to experiment on children because they need to know other stuff. They're like the people they mentioned in the documentary. I did not know that there was a guy called Kinsley that was the first person that started all of this, and there was another person that was called Dr. Money, which also was another cause of this. I'll probably make a video which would be quite separate from what this is. So maybe next week, I'll try to do a video about this specifically on kind of like what caused transgenderism, and who pushed it and had these things pushed through, because it's an issue. Now, the thing is that the people that would say specifically, oh, well, transgender, Dr. Money had nothing to do with it, he had a lot to do with it, and so did Kinsley. Specifically Kinsley, because he started it. But Dr. Money, a lot of his stuff is that he did on the horrific things that he did on the children are being used today, which are completely infactual. So, again, these people were sick. The methods that they did were sick, and it needs to be stopped. We need to fight back, because this is no longer a game. It never was a game to begin with, but now after seeing that documentary, I have no sympathy for these trans activists. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.